in my video and to have me make a video specially to answer your question, send me an email to englishclubusa@yahoo.com, and you can visit my website at englishclubusa.com for a free life membership. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Many people talk about things, many people talk about actions, descriptions, but how many people talk about quality? So this video is a video about quality and how quality functions in English language. So when you think about quality of things, whether it's a quality of a person or quality of anything, what do you think about? You think about adjectives. So of the four things that we will talk about in this series of videos, we did talk already about nouns, and if you remember correctly, nouns is anything that answers questions what or who. Verbs, if you remember correctly, there are two kinds. One is the action verb, and the other one is a description verb. And description verb generally requires descriptions. So now we will talk about how do you describe things? How do you give something a quality? Well, when you speak in English, you say, how do I know that a certain word is an adjective? Well, just like a noun, all you have to do is ask a question. So if the answer to the question that you're asking, what kind or what type of something it is, then that verb or that word is describing a quality of something. So the function of an adjective is to describe a noun. So when we'll have a special video, and I will talk specifically on the difference between the words type and kind, which is a very funny video. I'm sure you will enjoy it. But there is a difference between type and kind, and we will talk about that in a special short video. But for now, it is not important because they are similar. So most important is that adjective is anything. It doesn't matter whether it's a one word or more than one word. It is anything that answers a question, what type or what kind. So let's take a look and see what are the possibilities for adjectives. And as you remember, I always told you that English language is binary. If you learn to think in a binary way, you will think just like a native speaker. So, what is it so binary about adjectives? And what's binary is the format of an adjective. And it's very simple. You can have an adjective that is made out of one single word, or you may have adjectives that are made out of phrases, where there are two or more words, which gives it one quality to a noun. So, for example, I am a teacher. And you say, Valerio, what kind of teacher are you? I am an English teacher. So in this case, English describes Valerio. Aha. So if English describes Valerio, that means English in this case is an adjective. If I say Valerio is my English teacher, what am I saying? That Valerio is my what kind of teacher? Not math teacher, not science teacher. He is my English teacher. That describes me, and I am a noun. What about house? Well, there are many houses. There are many different kinds of house. There's your house. There's my house. There's your parents' house, your friend's house, your neighbor's house. So in this case, we will talk about a special house that has a special quality. And that quality is that that house belongs to me. So it is my house. So I live in my house. Homework. After you will do video homework with Valerio, you will find that you are really, really good. You will do excellent job. So excellent would describe the homework that you will do in video classes. So now you will say, I do excellent homework. So that would be a description of the word homework. The next question you will say, okay, Valeria, you have one-word adjectives. That is easy. What about two-word adjectives? Is it possible to have five-word adjectives? For sure. They function exactly the same way. They answer a question, what type or kind of a noun is it? So, for example, who is Valeria? Valeria is a teacher. But what kind of teacher is Valeria? Valeria is a teacher who teaches me English. So, who teaches me English is a description of a teacher. So, Valeria is a teacher, which is a noun, and then you have a description of Valeria. Notice, what is the difference between one-word adjectives and two-word adjectives? Well, both of them describe a teacher. In the first case, one-word adjective, where Valeria is my English teacher, the word English, which was a one-word adjective, went before the noun it describes. In the other case, Valeria is a teacher. What kind of teacher? The adjective is not in front of the word teacher. The adjective English teacher goes after the word teacher, which is very different than Spanish. So in this case, English is very systematic. If you want to use adjectives, you have to decide. You have two choices. English is binary. The choice is you can have a one-word adjective or two. And the difference is in the position where it is in comparison to the noun it describes. For example, what is a house? House is where I was born. So I can say that I live in the house. What kind of house? My house. But can you describe my house in a different way? Yes, you can. I live in the house. What kind of house? Where I was born. That is an adjective. That is a description of the house where I was born. So, what about homework? Can we talk about homework? Yes. So, homework that lets me, what kind of homework will you be doing? Is it good homework? Is it a bad homework? Or is it an excellent homework? Aha. So the adjective would be, it's a homework that helps me think like a native speaker. So let's look at this sentence. So now I do homework. What kind of homework? Excellent homework? No. Here it's a one-word adjective in front of a homework describing homework. And in this case, you have an adjective after the word homework. So what kind of homework is it? Now I do homework. Not excellent, but it's a homework that helps me think like a native speaker. So let's look at another example and see how that works. Okay, so you will ask me a question. Okay, Valeria, I understand. There are two types of adjectives. One type of adjective is a one-word adjective that is in the front of a noun it describes. And the other kind of adjective is a multi-word adjective which is behind a noun it describes. So now you understand how to place adjectives in English language, in a sentence. But then you can ask me, but what kind of adjectives are there? Well, there are many different adjectives. But in this video, I would like to speak about very special kind of adjectives, something that people normally don't think about when they think about adjectives. When you think about an apple, what kind of apple is it? It's a red apple. It's a big apple. It is my apple, right? Those are the qualities that we normally think about. But is that all about adjectives? No. That's not even the beginning. So let's go and take a look and see what are the most important qualities of adjectives. Adjectives is something that describes a noun. So always remember that adjective is anything that describes a noun. Anything that answers the question, what type or what kind is it? So, what is the number one adjective in English language? Well, many people heard about articles. Articles like a and n. Articles like the. Those are the things we heard about articles. But what I would like to do is I would like for you to go to a dictionary and look what is the meaning of the word article. It has nothing to do with English. An article is an object. It is something. It has no meaning. So I don't understand the word articles. But I do understand that articles function to describe a noun. So let's see how that works. When you say that I live on the 21st floor in the most famous building in Uruguay, what am I saying? Is this an article? Is that an article? Why did I put the? Does it have a meaning? Does it describe anything? Well, I'm sure that it does. Let's see what it describes. So whenever I use the, what you're telling me is that something is 100% known to the audience who are listening to me. So if I say that I live on the 21st floor, how many 21st floors there are? One. So when I say 21st floor, that's a noun. And then I need to always put something that describes it. And we will see later on, and I will be very specific about one single rule in English language. And that rule is, in English language, there are no nouns without adjectives. This is what I call a 100% rule. You cannot, in English language, have a noun that does not have an adjective. So if there is a noun in the text, something that is a what, it has to have a description. And that is a rule. There is one exception, we will talk about it later, but for now, let's think there are no exceptions. Because I want you to think just like a native speaker. So, in order to have a noun like 21st floor, we need to have a description. Is it a big 21st floor? Is it a clean 21st floor? No. It's the only one 21st floor. That means when you go inside the elevator and I tell you you need to come to my house, which is my apartment, which is located on 21st floor, how many buttons there are that says 21? One. That means 100% of people will know exactly which button to push. That's why I live on the only 21st floor in famous building in Uruguay. But this is not just a famous building. This is most famous building. So how many buildings that are more famous in Uruguay than my building? 0. So if you say that I live in the most famous building, when I put a the in front of most, that means there is nothing more famous than my building in Uruguay. So that's the case of the. What about a and n, you will say, but does that have a meaning? Well, you understood that the meaning of the means that somebody, everybody, knows exactly what I'm talking about, and there are no exceptions. If there is an exception, somebody may know and somebody may not know. In that case, we have to use articles a or n. But they're not really articles. They're adjectives. So when you use a and n, you're saying that not everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. So let's look at the example. From the other videos, you already know that I was not an English teacher. Remember, B of time? You remember I became an English teacher? That was a quick change. Well, but who am I? Well, let's look at the example. Who am I? I am a behavioral psychologist who is now an English teacher. So this is your adjective A and adjective N. What does it mean? That means that not 100% of people know exactly what kind of behavioral psychologist I am. And not everybody knows what kind of English teacher I am. So I'm not the behavioral psychologist, I am a behavioral psychologist because there are different types of behavioral psychologists, and I'm one of them. And there are many different types of English teachers, and I'm one of them. Since we don't know exactly what kind of psychologist and what kind of English teacher I am, we have to put the articles of familiarity. So you will ask, okay, these are adjectives of familiarity with the meaning 100% familiar, a meaning not everybody is familiar. What happens if you put nothing? Does that have a meaning? Well, until this video, you never thought about it, and nobody ever explained to you. And if you go to an internet or you go and look in a book, you will not find this information anywhere except this video. So is there a meaning? Valerio said, if there's a noun, there has to be an adjective. And that's Valerio's 100% rule. So how does that rule work when we have no adjectives of familiarity? Does it have a meaning? Well, it does. And that's the meaning. So when I say that we have no more coffee, okay, do we know which coffee we're talking about? No idea. Is it important which coffee we don't have? No. We have no more coffee. So when I want to say something like coffee, and I want to say that it's not important what kind of coffee it is, all I have to do is leave this place empty. And that will tell my audience that it is not important for me and for them the description of the coffee. They don't need to know what kind it is because it's not important. So we have no more coffee. We need to get coffee and milk. There are different kinds of milk. But because I didn't say what kind of milk, I left it blank. That means what I told you is it doesn't matter what coffee. And it's not important what milk. We just need to get them. So an empty space before the noun is a meaning. And that's a meaning of familiarity. The next type of adjective that we have to talk about, which is the second most important level of adjectives after the adjective of familiarity, is the adjective of ownership. Well, in English language, everything has an owner. This room has an owner, the apartment. My videos have an owner, YouTube. So whenever you think about anything, you always can find an owner. So this is why in English language the basic ownership belongs to people. That's why they are my videos, our video classes, your video homework, his, her, its, and their. So these are your, they call them personal pronouns. I don't like that. I like to call them ownership adjectives, because the function is for them to give the quality of something an owner. For example, EnglishClubUSA.com is my website that will help your English. I am the owner of the website, and you will be the owner of English. So, English.com is my website that will help your English become better than English of a native speaker. So what we have now is we have a combination of different adjectives we learned so far. We know that the website is mine, we know the English is yours, and we know that it will become better than English of a native speaker. Do you know which native speaker we're talking about? No, you don't. That's why it is an A English speaker. And what about English? Is it important which English of the English speaker? No. So now what you have an adjective that says that it's not important which English of a native speaker. So an empty place has a meaning. Well, let's see what is the next level of adjectives that are really important in English language. The next level of adjectives that is really important in English language is specification. You say, Valeria, what is specification? Specification is when you have to be really specific as to exactly what you're talking about. And what kind of specification are there? Well, there are two. As always, English is binary. Well, one kind of specification is when things are talking about a person, and the other thing is when things have certain information. So let's look at the example and see how people play a role in the description of specification. Valeria is a teacher. What kind of teacher? English teacher. Well, that's not specification. I want it to be more specific. So Valeria is a teacher, and then remember, adjective goes behind the noun that has more than two words. So Valeria is a teacher who has the most unusual and the easiest methodology. So this entire phrase, remember, more than two words, is an adjective that describes a teacher. So when I'm talking about a teacher, is it a good teacher or a bad teacher? Or maybe a crazy teacher? No, we're not talking about good, bad, or crazy. We're talking about specific kind of teacher. So we're specifying something. And the way to do it is we have to use words like who or like whom. And we will discuss the difference between these two words in a very special video, which is very important if you would like to be a journalist or you would like to speak English really well. So, when you have a who or whom, all of the information that follows these introductory words are the words that are describing the person before the word who. So in this case, the person is Valerio, which is a teacher. So Valerio is a teacher. What kind of specific teacher? Yes. And the specific teacher is who has the most unusual and the easiest methodology. That is one very specific adjective. What about whom? We will talk in the videos why we use one and not the other in a special video. Make sure you go watch it. But for now, let's just see how it works. So, Valerio is a teacher. What kind of teacher? Good teacher? Bad teacher? Crazy teacher? No. Valerio is a teacher whom I have chosen to be my only English teacher. So what we're doing here, we're using who or whom, and after that word, we put the specific information that describes Valerio as exactly what kind of teacher. So that would be the specification for a person. But remember, English is binary. And remember, there are two kinds of nouns. One kind of noun is a who, and the other kind of noun is a what. Aha. So you say, Valerio, what about descriptions about what's, not people? And there is a way to do that. So what you are doing is, in English language, you have to put information and give a signal that, are you talking about important information or not important information? Remember, English is binary. So when you think about specificity of an item, I need to know that it's not just a big apple or a small apple. I need to know, is the information about apple something that's important for me or not? And there are two ways of doing it. So one way is using the word that, and the other one is using the word which. These words introduce information that follows and identifies to me as a reader, or the audience identifies specifically the importance of information. So if the information that continues after a noun is important, then I will put a traffic light that says that. If information that continues after a noun is not important, I will put a traffic light that says which. That way the reader or the listener can know exactly if that quality is important or that quality is not important. So let's look at the example and see how that works in real life. So, the method. What kind of method Valerio is using? Valerio is using a very specific method. And all of the information, when we're talking about method of teaching English, is very important. So it's important information. I will say that the method Valerio uses is the easiest to understand and easiest to use. So what happens is that Valerio is using a method. Is Valerio using a good method, a bad method, or a crazy method? No. We want to be specific. Exactly. How do we describe the method? So we have to put an adjective behind the noun method and give it a specific description and mark it with a traffic light that tells the reader that that adjective that follows the traffic light is an important information adjective. So the method that Valerio uses is the easiest to understand and the easiest to use. So now we know exactly, specifically, what kind of method is it. Let's look at another example. Valerio's English classes that I use on EnglishClubUSA.com, which are also available on YouTube, are the best in the world. Well, I have a question. Is it really important to know that these classes are also available on YouTube? Well, Valerio's English classes that I use on English Club USA, which everybody knows, they're the same classes that you can watch on YouTube. Why do I need that information? Just in case, maybe somebody wants to make sure that they don't forget that classes on YouTube are the same classes available on the website. So in that case, information that these classes are also available on YouTube is an additional information. It's not necessary. It's not important. I could have taken this out and left only Valerio's English classes that I use on EnglishClubUSA.com are the best in the world. So this information wasn't necessary. So what do? How do we let everybody know that information that we put in there is not necessary? We need a traffic light. So there is a traffic light, and it says which. In addition to that, we have a special system. We need to mark it to know where we need to cut the sentence on one side and where we need to cut on the other side, so we can take this part out, which is not important. And the way we mark where to cut is using commas. So at the beginning, before the traffic light, we put a marker where we need to cut. And then when we finish with unimportant information, we need to put a second marker where we need to cut. So what happens if you cut the part that follows the traffic light, which you have Valerio's English classes that I use on EnglishClubUSA.com are the best in the world. And that is enough. So you will ask the question, what about, is there anything other kind of adjective that is really important? So we talked about adjectives that provide familiarity. Remember? The, a, and n. Or maybe there's nothing there, that means it's not important. Remember, there are adjectives we're talking about personal belonging, who is the owner of somebody. The owner belongs to a person, so it's a my, ours, all of those things. And the third was the specification that uses a person, who or whom, and the quality of information, which is necessary or optional. Let's talk about another example, which is an extremely important example when it comes to description of noun. Well, we talked about somebody who is the owner of the property, and that usually is the person. Like we have our class, like I have my website, like you have your video homework. So those are the people who are owners of something. What about things? Can things be owners? Yes, they can. Because two things often belong to each other. For example, my fingers belong to my hand. My hand belongs to my arm. And my arm belongs to my body. And my body belongs to me. So what you have things belonging to other things. And that is a description of belongingness. So let's take a look at a few examples. So when you're talking about with the belongingness, you need a noun. So in the case of belongingness, you may have two nouns. Just like a hand is a noun and a finger is a noun. In this case, you have a noun which is a kitchen, and you have a noun which is a table. So who belongs to whom? Does the table belong to the kitchen, or does the kitchen belong to the table? Well, in English language, the owner is always the last one. So whenever you want to talk about something specific, you're talking about a noun. You're talking about a what. So when you want to talk about a what, you must put it at the end. And whatever is the other thing who it belongs to now becomes an adjective. So even if you have a noun like a kitchen and a noun like a table, it doesn't matter. The table is what you're talking about. What kind of table? Is it a clean table or is it a dirty table? Is it a square table or is it a round table? Is it a big table or is it a small table? So remember, one word adjectives go in front of the noun. So even if you have a noun like kitchen in front of another noun like table, the function of the word kitchen changes. It becomes an adjective to describe a table. But the owner is always the adjective. So what happens is that the table belongs to the kitchen. That's the kind of table it is. The keys belong to the car. That's the kind of keys. You may have house keys. You may have car keys. You may have a safety deposit box keys. There are different keys. Car is a type of key that it is. New York City has a subway. There are many cities that have subways. So we're talking about a subway, but what kind of subway? We're talking about a New York subway. So New York is the owner. The subway belongs to New York. Subway belongs to the city. So city is a what? New York is a what? And a subway is a what? But when you put these three whats together, when you put three nouns together, the only noun that you have left is a subway. The other two are adjectives. They're the ones that describe the subway. Can we have more than two? Yes, we can. Let's look at a crazy example where you have more than two. We have all nouns, and what are we talking about? Let's see. Apartment, kitchen, entrance, door, and keys. So we have an apartment, we have a kitchen, we have an entrance, we have a door, and we have keys. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about an apartment? Are we talking about a kitchen? Are we talking about keys? Are we talking about door? We're talking about keys. So if I have keys, special keys, these keys only work for a door. So they are door keys. They're not car keys. These were car keys. And these are door keys. Well, these are entrance keys because we have many doors. We have a bedroom door, we have a bathroom door, we have a living room door, we have a garage door. So we're not using this key for any door. We're using it for a specific type of door. And that door is the entrance door. And then we have a kitchen. Kitchen has many doors. You have little doors, you have big doors, and you have a door where you enter. So it's a kitchen door. And then we have a house, and I have an apartment. I have two kitchens. I have a kitchen and a house and an apartment. No, I'm talking about apartment, not the house. So these are my apartment keys. These are my kitchen keys. These are my entrance keys. These are my door keys. So what happens is that now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nouns But in reality, we're talking about keys. That means keys is the only noun, the only word that functions as a noun. All of the other words are descriptions of the keys. So what is a description? Description is an adjective. So, in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 adjectives that were nouns before, but now they function as adjectives. Well, you will ask, Valerio, but in what order do I put these things? Can I say door, apartment, entrance, kitchen, keys? No, you can't. There is an official order of adjectives. And most English institutes really don't like teaching that because it's very difficult. That's how native people learn to speak English really well. We have internalized the order of adjectives. But then I will do a very special video for you guys, so that make sure you find a special video that will be titled Order of Adjectives video, and we will talk about how do you put your adjectives in the correct order, so everybody will understand you very well. Okay, so you'll ask me, okay Valerio, we didn't talk about big and small. We didn't talk about red and black. Nope. We didn't talk about those adjectives, and I will not talk about those adjectives. Why I will not talk about those adjectives? Because everybody knows those adjectives. What I would like to do is I would like to talk about adjectives that you normally don't think about, that you use all the time, that you just don't understand what you're doing. So I want you to be able to think like a native speaker, and the only way to do it is for you to understand exactly what you're doing. So let's take a look at the other adjectives that you may not thought about that you're using, but you are. So one of them is the order of adjectives. When things are in a certain order, it's a quality of a thing. So you can say Valerio is the best English teacher. And I agree with you. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But I will agree with you. When you say best, it's an order of being good. So best is something that is on top, something that you really want. So there's an order, maybe there's a second best. So it's not the first best, there's a second best, and maybe there's a third best. And then maybe there is a worst, which is at the very end of a certain order. So those order things that we always talk about, the biggest, the smallest, we're talking about limits of a certain order. So an order, for example, has to do much with numbers. And this is something you need to learn because it's a little different in every language. So you have the first person. An abbreviation is 1 plus st. So you have a first person, second person, third person, fourth person, fifth person, and sixth person. After the sixth, it's all the same. It could be 33rd person, okay, or 25th person, or 99th person. So the rest of the order is exactly the same. Then you have the mathematical situation. So remember, you have sometimes description, like in this case it's a first, but it's not the 99th, first as the first words things start. You have where things end. So it's a mathematical order, so you have a first and last person in line, or you may have a mathematical idea of average. So I am 181 or 5 foot and 11 inches. So I am of an average height for a man in 2020. So how do you get an average? You add 3 plus 4 plus 5, you divide them by 3 because there are 3 numbers, and you get an average 4. So that would be your average. Average, I'm an average person. That means the type of person I am. I'm not a smart person, I'm not a dumb person. I'm an average person. So that is another description of that. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the videos, because what we really will need to talk about later are how can you use verbs as adjectives. That is something very special that we haven't done in this video. Make sure you go and watch videos where verbs function as different parts of speech. We will talk about that. It's very difficult at the beginning, but I promise you, after my videos and video homework, you think will be very easy. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's class. I hope it was fun, and I hope today's adjectives were interesting, and you will do your homework when you go to the website. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. To be in my video and to have me make a video specially to answer your question, send me an email to englishclubusa@yahoo.com, and you can visit my website at englishclubusa.com for a free life membership. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.